Chapter 57, Lev. The tithes at Happy Jack are like first-class passengers on the Titanic. There's plush furniture throughout the tithing house. There's a theater, a pool, and the food is better than homemade. Sure, their fate is the same as the Terribles, but at least they're getting it in style. It's after dinner, and Lev is alone in the tithing house workout room. He stands on a treadmill that isn't moving because he hasn't turned it on. On his feet are thickly padded running shoes. He wears a double pair of socks to cushion his feet even more. However, his feet are not his concern at the moment. It's his hands. He stands there staring at his hands, lost in the prospect of them. Never before has he been so intrigued by the lines on his palms. Isn't one of them supposed to be a lifeline? Shouldn't the lifeline of a tithe divide out into the branches like a tree? Lev looks at the swirls of his fingerprints. What a nightmare of identification it must be when other people get in Unwind's hands. What can fingerprints mean when they're not necessarily yours? No one will be getting Lev's fingerprints. He knows this for a fact. There are tons of activities for the tithes, but unlike the Terribles, no one is forced to participate. Part of preparation for tithing is a month-long regime of mental and physical assessments before one's tithing party, so all the hard work is done at home before they get here. True, this isn't the harvest camp he and his parents had chosen, but he's a tithe. It's a lifetime pass that's good anywhere. Most of the other tithes are in the rec room at this time of the evening, or in any number of prayer rooms. There are pastors of all faiths in the tithing house, ministers, priests, rabbis, and clerics, because the notion of giving that finest of the flock back to God is a tradition as old as religion itself. Lev attends as often as necessary, and in Bible study he says just enough of the right things so as not to look suspect. He also keeps his silence when Bible passages become shredded to justify unwinding, and kids start to see the face of God in the fragments. My uncle got the heart of a tithe, and now people say he can perform miracles. I know this woman who got a tithe's ear. She heard a baby crying a block away and rescued it from a fire. We are Holy Communion. We are manna from heaven. We are a piece of God and everyone. Amen. Lev recites prayers, trying to let them transform him and lift him up like they used to, but his heart has been hardened. He wishes it could be hard enough to be a diamond instead of crumbling jade. Maybe then he'd have chosen a different path. But for who he is now, for what he feels and what he doesn't feel, the path is right. And if it's not right, well, he doesn't care enough to change it. The other tithes know that Lev is different. They've never seen a fallen tithe before, much less one who, like the prodigal son, has renounced his sins and returned to the fold. But then, tithes don't generally know many other tithes. Being surrounded by so many kids just like him feeds the sense of being a chosen group. Still, Lev is outside of that circle. He turns the treadmill on, making sure his strides are steady and his footfalls are as gentle as can be. The treadmill is state-of-the-art. It has a screen with a programmable vista. You can jog through the woods or run the New York Marathon. You can even walk on water. Lev was prescribed extra exercise when he arrived a week ago. That first day, his blood test showed high triglyceride levels. He's sure that Mai and Blaine's blood test showed the same problem as well, although the three of them were captured independently and arrived a few days apart from one another, so no connection among the three of them could be made. Either it runs in your family or you've had a high diet in fats, the doctor had said. He prescribed a low-fat diet during his stay at Happy Jack and suggested additional exercise. Lev knows there's another reason for his high triglyceride level. It's not actually triglyceride in his bloodstream at all, but a similar compound, one that's a little less stable. Another boy enters the workout room. He has fine hair so blonde it's practically white, and eyes so green there must have been some genetic manipulation involved. Those eyes will go for a high price. Hi, Lev. He gets on the treadmill next to Lev and begins running. What's up? Nothing, just running. Lev knows the kid didn't come here on his own accord. Tithes are never supposed to be alone. He was sent here to be Lev's buddy. Candle lighting will be starting soon. Are you coming? Every evening, a candle is lit for each tithe being unwound the next day. The honored kids give speeches. Everyone applauds. Lev finds it disgusting. I'll be there, Lev tells the kid. Have you started working on your speech yet? He asks. I'm almost done with mine. Mine's in bits and pieces, Lev says. The joke goes over the kid's head. Lev turns off the machine. This kid will not leave him alone as long as he's here, and Lev really doesn't want to talk to him about the glory of being a chosen one. He'd rather think about those who aren't chosen and are lucky enough to be far from the harvest camp, like Risa and Connor, who to the best of his knowledge are still in the sanctuary of the graveyard. It's a big comfort to know that their lives will continue even after he's gone. There's an old trash shed behind the dining room that is no longer in use. Lev found it last week and decided it was the perfect place for secret meetings. When he arrives that evening, Mai is pacing in the small space. She's been getting more and more nervous each day. "How long are we going to wait?" she asks. "Why are you in such a hurry?" Lev asks. "We'll wait until the time is right." Blaine pulls out 6 small paper packets from his sock, tears one open, and puts out a little round Band-Aid. "What's that for?" Mai asks. "For me to know and for you to find out." "You're so immature." Mai always had a short fuse, especially when it comes to Blaine, but tonight there seems to be more rumbling beneath the surface of her attitude. "What's wrong, Mai?" Lev asks. Mai takes a moment before answering. "I saw this girl today playing piano on the chop shop roof. I know her from the graveyard, and she knows me." "That's impossible. If she's from the graveyard, why would she be here?" asked Blaine. "I know what I saw, and I think there are other kids here I know from the graveyard too. What if they recognize us?" Blaine and Mai look to Lev as if he can explain it. Actually, he can. "They must be kids who were sent out on a job and got caught. That's all." Mai relaxes. Yeah, that must be it." "If they recognize us," says Blaine, "we can say the same thing happened to us." "There," says Lev. "Problem solved." "Good," says Blaine. "Back to business. So, I'm thinking we go for the day after tomorrow, on account of I'm scheduled for a game of football the day after that, and I don't think it'll go very well." Then he hands 2 of the little Band-Aids to Mai and 2 to Lev. "What do we need the Band-Aids for?" Mai asks. "I was told to give you these after we got here." Blaine dangles one from his fingers, like a little flesh-colored leaf. "They're not Band-Aids," he says. "They're detonators." There was never a job on the Alaskan pipeline. After all, what Unwind would volunteer for such a job? The whole point was to make sure that no one but Lev, Mai, and Blaine volunteered. Their van had taken them from the graveyard to a rundown house in a rundown neighborhood where people who had been run down by life plotted unthinkable deeds. Lev was terrified of these people, and yet he felt a kinship with them. They understood the misery of being betrayed by life. They understood what it felt like to have less than nothing inside of you. And when they told Lev how important he was in the scheme of things, Lev felt, for the first time in a long time, truly important. The word evil was never used by these people, except to describe the evils that the world had done to them. What they were asking Lev, Mai, and Blaine to do wasn't evil. No, not at all. It was expression of all the things they felt inside. It was the spirit and the nature and the manifestation of all they had become. They weren't just messengers. They were the message. This is what they filled Lev's mind with, and it was no different than the deadly stuff they filled his blood with. It was twisted. It was wrong. And yet it suited Lev just fine. "We have no cause but chaos," Cleaver, their recruiter, was always so fond of saying. What Cleaver never realized, even at the end of his life, is that chaos is as compelling as a cause as any other. It can even become a religion to those unlucky enough to be baptized into it, those whose consolation can only be found in its foul waters. Lev does not know of Cleaver's fate. He does not know or care that he himself is being used. All Lev knows is that someday, soon, the world will suffer a small part of the loss and emptiness and the utter disillusionment he feels inside, and they will know the moment he raises his hands in applause.